bring that resolution to you all to look at and schedule that. But that's kind of what we have on our calendar, that we're, October is the time, it kind of falls in between the beginning of school and the 14th check going out in November and the holidays. So that's usually a good time, if we have a supplement like that, to put it on the payroll. And it gives our employees a nice little supplement right before they get out for fall break. We'll remind them this year, there is no ESSER supplement going with that. Last year, we were able to couple an ESSER supplement in the fall and the spring. This year, there's no ESSER supplement budgeted at this time.
So it'll just be the fall.
It'll, right, just the state supplement going
It'll just
out
be
in the
the
fall.
stipend in the fall,
Yeah.
right now.
So as of right now, there's nothing scheduled for the spring. There's no state supplement to hold over, and there's no ESSER supplement. So in the spring, where the last few years they have gotten something right before spring break, there's no supplement scheduled at this time.
So based on the last school board meeting we had, ESSER was talked about, and we have zeroed out the ESSER account, or we're going to be zeroing it out on a certain date, or?
We're going to be zeroing out by the end of the period. So the grant ends September 30th. They have given us an extension for, say, construction projects that are ongoing, which we do have a couple. So we'll have until December to get those cleaned up, paid, and we're not going to lose that money. So we are meeting probably every other week now is what we have been meeting. Myself, Mr. Geis, Clint Miller, Jared Peters, and Mr. Hemphill, to go over that, make sure we're on track with that, make sure that nothing is falling through the cracks on the ESSER
The process
funding.
we're doing, everything has been budgeted. So as we start to finish these budgeted items, for example, the soil program in the summer, we'll see how much we did not spend. And so, like Regina said, we were meeting monthly, now we're meeting bi-weekly to make sure that we can capitalize and use those funds. So we're in the process of cleaning up and trying to spend everything that we can spend through ESSER.
By the end of December.
Well, we have to have it budgeted, we have to
November.
have it committed by the end of September. For example, our outdoor classrooms, our elementary schools, we have until December. Now, we haven't spread that too loudly to our contractor because we want to keep them on track, but we have until the end of December, or not the end of December, December
Okay.
15th.
So that means
To pay.
by November 30th, we need it all paid and done, so Mr. Long has time to do the requisitions and get payment on those.
So it's winding down, and our commitment is to try to spend every penny that we can and not have to send anything back. So we had heard rumors that we may be getting another allocation for some cleanup from other districts. We haven't seen that yet, so we're proceeding.
Depending on the election in November.
We're really expecting to see something prior to September, maybe prior to the end of September, maybe mid-September, before we know. And then we don't know if that comes with an extended timeline, or if they say you can have it, but you still have to spend it within the timeline that the original funds were. We just don't know what that's going to look like. Some other assumptions that I made on the budget were utility costs. Electricity, we've gone back over the last few years. As you know, we've talked about year before last, we saw quite the increase in our utility usage or payments. So it seemed to level out a little bit last year. We've done some things proactively with our schools to try to even get that to level out a little bit more. Right now, projected a 10% increase in utility bills, and that's just based on the increases that we've seen over the last few years.
10%.
Yes, sir.
10% increase. A 10% increase would equate to how much, basically?
So for electricity, that would be about 500,000. Water, actually, I did project a little bit higher. I projected that at 20% based on the last few years, so that would be about 140,000. With no change in natural gas, we've seen that's been pretty level, and no change in garbage. We did see an increase last year, but we do not expect that to happen again. That was just our collector catching up.
You gotta talk.
Okay. Technical, very technical issues. Property and liability insurance, as you know, we address that each year. At the beginning of the year, that went up, depending on the type of coverage, 8 to 10%. And then OGB, Office of Group Benefits, hospitalization and health insurance it went up 6% last year. It's projected to go up another 6% this year. So that is budgeted in as well.
Ms. Meekins, what's the total funding we get from the state on MFP per student? What do they send to us per student? Is it 6,500 or what's that figure?
With all of the add-ins that they do, like for vocational, special education, those type of things, it averages out at $68.59 per student.
Is that an increase? Do they kind of look at that each year and some kind of inflation increase, or it's just a?
There is no inflationary factor in an MFP. It is the same dollar that we've gotten since they adopted
The
this
base
formula.
MFP has not changed, Mr. Manley.
It's 4,000.
The only thing that would go up is if we had an increased number of special education students, increased number in our vocational programs, things like that, but the base number has remained the same.
The base number is $4,015. The average is the $68.59. So that may change a little bit depending on how many kids we have in each program, that they may get a little bit extra here, a little bit extra there. But
And that's per
$4,015.
student enrolled in our system, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So roughly what we have projected this year is about $116 million. And then, in addition to that, we get career development funds, which support the vocational programs in the high schools, and then we get SCA funds that also support our high schools. So if you go past the operating budget, the total combined budget on page 24 and 25, we get into the individual budgets. So general fund, I think what we've just talked about pretty much covers everything in the general fund. All the assumptions that were made, and it's a balanced budget proposed for the upcoming year. On page 32 and 33, we have the district M&O. I apologize, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but this is the sales tax that is divided up by the resolution adopted by the voters. It's 36% that goes to instructional funds. There's a percentage that goes to capital projects funds. There's a percentage that goes to equipment. There's a percentage that helps to offset mandated costs that are passed along to us that are not covered by any other funding source. So all of those things come together in the District 1 M&O budget. This is where we pay for our band, our choir, our curriculum. This fund supports our technology for instructional use. This fund purchases our buses, replaces roofs. It's our general maintenance for our buildings. Also, it supports a salary increase for not an ongoing supplement, I shouldn't say increase, an ongoing supplement for our support employees from a time when the state did not include them in raises. So when the state would issue a raise for certified staff and they would not include support staff, that money comes out of this. That hasn't happened in a very long time, but we still have employees that are covered under that in this fund.
Good.
And that's all as it was passed by the voters.
Got a question?
Yes, sir.
I noticed where you indicated that we try to keep a fund balance of 10 to 15%. Is that across the board or just in our?
So the board policy is 10 to 15%. So that covers mainly general fund and M&O.
Just mainly those two.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because federal programs do not carry a fund balance, and state programs would only carry a fund balance as allotted by the grant. So really, the policy applies to general fund and M&O. And as our auditors really consider M&O a general fund, so anytime you're looking at, it's a separate fund, it's kept separate, but when we report to the state, we have to report it with our general fund. So when we report our annual financial report to the state, which Sharon compiles every year, she's working on that now to get it compiled and issued in September, October. The M&O is reported with the general fund, so all of those policies apply to both of those combined. Yeah, so when I'm looking at the fund balance, and I'm doing the calculations, I'm considering those two together.
The state requirement is 7.5.
Yes, sir, the state recommends 7.5, but our board policy is 10 to 15%, and that 15% really gets us closer to the 3 months of operations, which is considered a little bit more stable. So behind the M&O, we go into the special revenue fund. So this is where our sales taxes, our 1968, 1995, that's our 13th and 14th checks. Our West Ouachita sales tax, which supports West Ouachita construction. Child Nutrition Fund, Title I, special ed, other federal programs and state grant programs. But you'll see on page 36 and 37, those are all of our special revenue funds combined. But then if you continue going behind that, they break out into the individual funds. So the 1968 is on page 38 and 39. You'll see that we end the period with a $2.4 million fund balance. That is simply 2 months of collections that we will hold over to be distributed in the next check distribution. So on page 38, 39, and 40, 41, the 1995 sales tax, what comes in goes out. Everything that comes into those funds is distributed out to the employees based on the resolution passed by the voters in 1968 and 1995. You go to the West Ouachita sales tax, you'll notice we're ending the period with a projected $22 million in fund balance. But if you go down to the bottom of page 43, you'll see that we have committed those funds in current construction projects. So I know it looks like a lot of money sitting there, but those are projects ongoing, and then we have a plan that we go through and a budget we go through with those. So we do have those funds committed at this time. Child Nutrition Program on page 44 and 45. You'll see it's projected to end the period with $558,000 in fund balance. Jolynn does a very good job in being proactive and staffing her program and running her program to make sure that it stays in the positive. So if we go past that, we get to Title I programs. Those are all cost reimbursements, so you'll see they do not carry a fund balance. What comes in goes out, and we follow the state-approved budget on those funds as we do the special education programs and other federal programs. So other federal programs on page 56 and 57 are where our ESSER funds are housed, and you'll see this year they are considerably lower than what we were looking at last year, and next year they will be even lower than that, as ESSER funds will be completely gone from those budgets. And then past that, we have the state grant programs on page 60 and 61. Those are a little bit of a mixture in cost reimbursement programs, and we have a few like EEF that may carry a balance. But still, we follow budgets that are approved by the state in those programs, and those monies are set aside as such. And then all the way back to page 63, begins the debt service funds portion. We're not required by law to adopt a budget for debt service funds, but I just point this out to you every year. Our bond rating agencies like that we have this, and we map it out for them, and we have everything budgeted and what we expect to bring in and pay out. It just helps a little bit going through that process. So we continue to adopt these budgets, and they strictly follow the voter resolutions and the requirements on those funds to pay the bonds off. So does anybody have any questions or anything you'd like me to discuss further as far as items in the budget? All right.
No cards? Any public comment about the budget? None? Thank you. That's a wrap.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Memphis.
Of our public hearing to be handled by Ms. Regina Meekles.
Good morning. This is a public hearing to consider the 2024 property tax levy. In the past year for 2023, our property tax millage rate was 5.818 for constitutional and 24.15 for school district number 1, operating and maintenance. The adjusted rate after reassessment was 5.02 for constitutional and 23.42 for school district number 1, operation and maintenance. And we're asking that the proposed rate be rolled forward to the existing 5.18 and 24.15. So every 4 years, as is required by the legislature, our property tax values are reassessed. When that reassessment occurs, the assessor adjusts the rates down to keep our revenue level with what it was in the prior year. We're just asking that we keep our tax millage the same as it was in prior years and as it has been since 2006. So you'll have 2 resolutions at the board meeting. One, to adopt the millage as it has been rolled back at 5.02 and 23.42, and then you'll have a second resolution that we're requesting the millage be rolled forward to remain the same as it was in prior years. The total change is a 0.89 mil difference. I did have a conversation with the tax assessor this morning just to check my numbers and make sure that I was right on my calculations, because I didn't want to pass along any information to you that was incorrect. So the roll forward for us is less than a mil. It's 0.89 mils. So for the average homeowner in Ouachita Parish, if you have a $250,000 house, 1 mil would be $18 for the year, and our roll forward is 0.8 mils. So that kind of puts it into context in the cost to that. So to the district, that would mean a decrease of $853,000.
How much was it?
853,000 total.
Well, your recommendation is to keep the millage the same as last year, though, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as I mentioned earlier, that millage hasn't changed since 2006. It's been the same. And the roll forward process has been the same since that time. So every 4 years, when the property taxes when the tax values are reassessed, we go through this process of a roll forward.
So there will be no increase to the taxpayers as a result of the millage proposal, right? Per your
Correct. The
recommendation.
millage would be the same.
Right, so there would be no increase whatsoever to the taxpayer.
Correct.
Okay.
There would be no, the proposed rate, they rolled it back to 5.2, but you're
Yes, sir.
asking us to adopt 5.18 because that's what it's been in previous years.
Correct.
But if we adopted at 5.18, and you said that would be a 0.89% in each.
0.89 mils is what the difference in the roll forward
And
is.
1 meal equals $18, around $18.
Yes, sir.
So this would equal around $15.
Yes, sir.
So they would experience at least $15.
Right, if their property values assessed higher than they were in previous years.
Correct.
I
So
think-
the difference would be directly related to the value of their property and whether it was assessed higher than it had been in previous years.
I think Mr. Geis indicated too, he might want to restate that, but all the other municipalities in our area are also continuing with the same millage as they've had previously in the previous year, is that correct?
I did look on the website this morning, the police jury is, City of Monroe, West Monroe, excuse me. I had a conversation, just left the superintendent's meeting with the superintendent in Monroe City, and that is their intention as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Como.
Comment from the audience?
I just wanted to clarify for the public, just because I just found out over the weekend that it's not voter approval that gets to decide when our governing entities increases or decreases budget. So that was something that I just realized, as well as hundreds of others in our community. But when I spoke to Stephanie at the tax assessor's office, she said that the school board is not increasing taxes for the public. It's that if your property is reassessed, and so if you've added on, or if homes within your vicinity of your home has recently sold, then your property will be reassessed and your taxes could go up. But not everybody will see that increase, only some will see that increase. So I just wanted to, make sure that everybody knows it's not the school board increasing our taxes. It is the tax assessors coming in, and any renovations or upgrades or additions of land or property, that's what causes the increase in those taxes. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, because I did not know, and so I just wanted to clarify.
Adam, do you know offhand how often the assessor's office reassesses property? Is it every 10 years or? Every 4 years?
This goes along with that. Any other questions? Comments? All right, this hearing is now